Well, hi there, fans. Time to get to Better Know a Garden for 2022. This is going to be kind of an abbreviated show because there isn't a lot to see, number one. Number two, when we walk outside, you'll be able to observe, I'm going to be running between the raindrops. Well, one of the reasons that there's not a lot to see is because, as usual, we've had a terrible spring. The little greenhouse, as you'll see, didn't do great. So there's a lot of midget plants out there because there's been no sun, plus some other problems. So one of the things I tried to do this year was to follow this rigorous and highly technical planting guide, so I know what I did. And as you'll be able to see, it made absolutely no difference at all that it's going to be a free-for-all as we move towards the summer. But we will move towards the summer and hopefully things will get better. One of the features that I'm going to try to bring this year is pro tips. My first pro tip for 2022 is in this bag right here. These are crushed up eggshells, and you can see there's quite a bit. And they're mostly from started collecting them this winter, the shells from the many key lime pies that the farmer's wife made, plus omelets, etc., etc. And these little guys will go in about a half a cup with each tomato plant. And they're almost pure calcium phosphate, and they are really important for tomatoes to help regulate the water, whether there's too much water or not enough. Keeps the fruits from splitting if there's too much and drying out if there's not enough. And it does really seem to work and help. So with that, let's move outside. So here's the little greenhouse you'll remember from last year I had such high hopes for. And it does help, but there's a big learning curve with it. This is about all the further we've gotten with some of these plants. The peppers, you can see that there's a lot of them that I've had to replant because they got fried. I'll talk more about that. There's some Brussels sprouts that are just coming up, and some more peppers, and a few tomatoes down here. And I mean a few. They're just not doing really well. Because when it's cold and there's no sun, it doesn't really matter, and when it's hot, it turns into a furnace, especially up here. That's why there's no plants on the top shelf. They actually fried them. And towards that end, I cut this little vent flap, which seems to take care of the problem, but I've learned my lesson on that a little bit too late for some of these, so we had to start again. And a few, as we'll see down there, I was able to transplant recently, but there's a lot more that are going to sit here for a while. And here's another reason why we haven't got too far in the garden. I spent the last week, which had decent weather, taking care of this because it just needed to be taken care of. Power wash the patio, repair and paint the retainer walls, stain the deck. Those are all every other year jobs, and this was the other year. Plus 7 yards of mulch in all the beds. Okay, the herb growing area has all been planted except for the perennials, which there's a couple sage plants that they said were perennials, and they did come back. I had more, but some of them didn't make it. And down there's one little thyme plant that did make it, because the other ones I cut too short and they didn't, but I've planted some more. And the only herb that I can't get right now is summer savory, which is too bad because we use a lot of it, so I've had to mail off for some seeds. There's just none available locally. Here's kind of a little point of pride. This is a red buckeye tree that's doing really well, and it gets these really nice flowers here that the hummingbirds just love. I've got a couple other small ones, but this guy's probably about 5 or 6 years old. Okay, we're going to move down to the main garden area, and I've invested probably, good $6 or $7 in this critter fence. You can see I'll be able to put it down and get it up and get in there without killing myself this year, and seems to be working well so far, but we're going to put it to the test soon. We're getting ready for the tomatoes. I put down some weed block this year, going to try that. And I've got the fencing all laid out for the tomato canopy when that's ready to go. And I needed to do that because I planted beans yesterday. There's staked where the rows of beans are. Obviously not a lot to see right now since I just planted them yesterday. And we do have a few cucumbers that made it. 1, 2, 3, and some more in the back across there. And just to take advantage of some space, I planted some red kale. Some of it came up, but the spring was so crappy, as I've said many times, that not much of it did, and it's certainly way behind. And then I've got some of the butternut squash, and you can see how small these things are. I mean, they just didn't grow from seed, and I had to replant several times. And then way down here in the back, in this kind of wasted space that's going to be used to run out all the squash and stuff, you can see that stake, and there is a row of Swiss chard planted there that I tried to plant some other place, didn't come up, and I figured, okay, what the heck, I got this packet of Swiss chard, I'll see if anything will grow back here. And I did save the best for last. This is the much anticipated, and the highlight of the video is going to be the asparagus garden, and you'll see there's a couple things going in here. First of all, my master gardener advisor gave me some garlic that I've planted between the furrows there, and a lot of it made it. There's certainly enough garlic for us. And here you see some of the asparagus. Now, we've had 2 or 3 harvests, but this is what it does. This guy, just an example, was this tall yesterday. This stuff comes up and it really grows fast. You can see I got green and purple. The purple is called Purple Passion. I didn't order it, but I got it. It tastes the same, and it is turns green when you cook it. I think the big purple garden cartel is just advertising it for more sales. You can see how fat they are. This will probably be about this tall tomorrow, and at that point you can cut it, which I'll show you how to do. Now, some of these roots are 2 years old and some of them are only 1 year old, and the 2-year-old ones, you can see, are real nice. They come up nice and fat, and the 1-year-old ones are a little bit skinnier. And when they come up and they start looking like a fern like that, which is exactly what they're called, that means leave me alone. Don't cut me anymore. If they're like this, go ahead and cut me and eat me. So this is how you do it. Right down near the ground, cut them off, and you need to check about every 2 days because they just grow incredibly fast. So we're going to be done here, I think, with the asparagus in probably another week. It's just a guess, I really don't know. But it's been great. It really tastes wonderful, and it's nice to come out and just cut your own that you want to eat. And there's going to be some work afterwards. You have to fertilize it and compost it and that kind of stuff because these things get exhausted putting up all these spears. But that'll do it. Oh, one more thing. Out there in this box, there are 3 or 4 baby bluebirds. So we're going to be bluebird grandparents again. They've already hatched, and Mom is just feeding them, and Dad, round the clock. So they should emerge pretty soon. And maybe next time, you'll be able to see them. Have a great month.